realize when coming in. Build has done a great job of building a network and creating a network for a lot of people to join in and refer deals and get deals closed and help other homeowners. Absolutely phenomenal platform that's in place. But the one thing that I realized having conversations with a lot of mentees and clients as well is just the expectations of how fast a job or just a job, the process of a job. Before we even start with everything else, I do want to make clear that solar is a construction job. Right? So I want you to think about any and all construction jobs or work that you may have seen, been a part of, or witnessed before. Whether, looking at a building being built, or, just anything construction wise, usually things take long, right? In solar specifically, there's a lot of moving pieces. Now, this isn't bad. It's just something to be aware of. There's a lot of moving pieces, right? So you have the client, you have the installer, you have the finance company, right? You have inspections, right? These are just the different components of a solar job, right? The finance company. Once again, the inspections, sometimes there's two, depending on what county and what state you live in. So a lot of different moving pieces. So that's just a good place to start as we kind of go into this training. What I did want to touch on last week before I got cut off was the fact of the payment payout timeline, right? So in Build and in Team Freedom, Freedom Forever, there's three major payouts to a solar job, right? There's M1, milestone one. So this is usually, for those who are taking notes, this is usually when a job closes and after the site survey, right? After a site survey, that's when a job is usually that's milestone one. So once the site survey is completed and basically the homeowner agrees and all parties agree to a deal moving forward, that's what's called milestone one. That's usually when the first payout is, right? And just to give you guys a visual, let me actually pull up a solar job so you can see what I'm referring to. It's good to hear, but it's even better to see, right? Okay, give me 1 second as I pull this up here. Okay. Everyone can see this on the screen? Perfect. So once again, milestone one usually takes place around this step, right? Once the design is approved, once again by the homeowner, by the consultant, and also by Freedom, then this is usually milestone one once this is completed. Milestone two is at install, right? So this is usually the first payout. I'm sorry, the second payout of a solar deal, right? Now, obviously, it takes some time to get to, a solar deal. And just for maybe those who may not know, or maybe need some clarity, when Bill talks about, $3,500 per deal, right? And an average deal being a $7,000 payout, that's true, right? There's some jobs that pay out 10 to 15,000, and then some jobs that may pay a little bit less, right? 5 to 3,000, right? So it's an average. But obviously that 35 is split 50-50. So that's between the mentee and the mentor, right? In most situations. So that $3,500 is split up in between these three different payout timeframes that I'm referring to, right? So just for example purposes only, once again, a design M1, that's usually around about $500 depending on the overall size of the deal, right? And these things are very fluid, so they do change from time to time. But let's just say, for example's sake, roughly $500 of the deal of that $3,500 gets paid out at N1, N1, milestone one, right? And milestone two is when the biggest payout of a deal gets paid out, right? And that's usually 80% of the deal. So for this example, let's just say that's another $2,000 out of the 35. And then once the deal is completely installed and turned on, once again, that's when you get the last stage, which is milestone three, right? Which is that remaining $1,000. So this is how a solar deal is broken up over time, right? Now, I'm just explaining this just for context. As some people may say, oh, well, I didn't get paid here, or it took a long time here. Well, I know some people may be thinking that, and this is exactly why I'm explaining why I'm explaining what I'm explaining now. Because as I just mentioned, these rules are what's present. However, they do and they have changed as of recent, right? So, depending on what finance company you go with, whether it's a finance, whether it's a lease, and the finance company, it may pay out all at let's say 80%. So it may not have an M1 payout, right? The M1 payout may actually be at install. And then once again, once the deal is finished. So it just may be two payouts. My point is things change very frequently. And I'm talking about change because specifically what's going on now in the solar industry, as there's a lot of change, right? As I mentioned last week, this overall solar industry is evolving, right? And I tried to come up with an analogy of how that looks because most people right now going through the process, it may not be the cutest in the world. Well, just roll with me on an example right here, right? Just think about, a child maybe going through puberty, right? Sometimes they have, bumps on their face and pimples. And once again, it's just that they're growing up. That's exactly what's taking place in the solar industry. It's changing, it's evolving. I know there was a lot of doom and gloom, but I want you guys to understand this thought process. In the solar industry, a lot of homeowners, for a long time, or a lot of companies and sales reps, have been relying on the federal tax credit as a way to entice a homeowner to move forward. So that's always been good, it seemed like, but with that tax credit, there's sometimes I would easily can say we've just been too reliant on it, right? I said last week, without the tax credit, solar is still a good option for the homeowner if it makes sense. In some situations, it may not make sense, but if it makes sense, then solar is still a good option. So what we're going to be doing moving forward is we're not going to be reliant on that tax credit anymore, which should change things. Now, there's going to be an adjustment in the market overall, so it may slow things down a bit. But trust me when I say there's probably going to be other options that come out, right? Other more feasible leasing options, more personal finance options. Instead of financing with the solar company, there'll be options where people will be able to find their own financing with their bank, or whatever financial institution that they could actually work with. So all of these options are definitely coming up. So you once again, you want to be kind of like prepared for that. And whether you're looking at this as a career, whether you're looking at this as something part-time to do, it's kind of just good to know these options are available as you speak to homeowners. Not to tell them about it, right? But just to kind of keep in the back of your mind so you know that there's still options available, right? So that was more of the payout time frame. And I'll say this as well. A few years ago, I want to say about 6 years ago, when I want to say my solar career kind of like really took off and I really seen the bigger picture of what this could be, I wasn't really reliant on the finance option, right? It was more of a lease that was shown to more people, right? So the lease is a lot easier to explain, and it's also a lot easier for homeowners to grasp. Now, could it be better for a homeowner to finance a system? Absolutely, right? But usually in the past, that reasoning mainly was just connected to the federal tax credit. Well, once again, without that being around, it may make a lot more sense for a lot of homeowners to lease the system. I've seen this and noticed this over the last couple of weeks. that a lot of homeowners are now making that shift to say, you know what, financing it may not necessarily be, an option for us right now. However, what's the lease option? And usually that lease option is very attractive. Homeowner doesn't have to worry about taking out a loan A, don't have to worry about claiming incentives that sounds like it's pie in the sky, right? Until a homeowner actually gets it, right? As a consultant, as we explain it, it sounds great up front, but most people, because going solar is this is their first time doing it, most people don't even know and realize that it's actually going to come, right? So once again, the lease is easier from that perspective. So once again, just transitioning a little bit. And before I do, just opening it up for any thoughts, any questions from anyone before I continue on with everything. Okay, I see a few questions here. What about affiliate referral? So, Carla, what do you mean by that specifically? What about affiliate referrals?
So when an
What do you mean?
affiliate refers someone to an active builder, right? And they
Hmm.
get a portion of the commission. So how does
Yes.
that payout system work out for the individual who refers someone to, like, say, to me, and then
Hmm.
I refer them to you? I know that there's a portion, but it's
Yep.
not as high as the active builder.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And I'm so glad you asked that. That's a real good question, actually, because a lot of people don't really know exactly how that works. So let's say Carla refers her friend to me. And obviously I would be the mentor on the deal, or would be the mentee, right? So that's the relationship right there. But that referral that Carla put in was from an affiliate, right? So let's say uh, Lisa is an affiliate on Carla's team. Lisa sent the deal in, and now Carla a chosen mentor, which was me, right? So on that deal, let's say that's a $7,000 deal, right? Commission. So me and Carla would split the 35-35, right? So that would be our payout. But then there would be a referral bonus to that affiliate of the amount that caller decided to choose, right? And you can choose anywhere between 500 to 750 to $1,000, right? Now you can choose whatever amount you want, but the most important thing to realize is that that amount comes out of the deal, right? So it comes out of the deal of whatever the profit or whatever would be, right? So it's good to either know that up front when you put a lead in. You can determine how much that affiliate gets paid, right? So whatever you choose is whatever you choose. That's not the problem. But in knowing that it comes out of the overall deal is. Now, the mentor or the client may not necessarily know this, but it does come out of the deal overall. So yes, definitely great question there for that. Does that make sense overall?
It it does make sense. It's just a question of, do they get like the three portions, or is it at the conclusion of,
Yes.
since everything is, once everything is in place and permission to operate has been granted, is that when they get their referral payout, or is it through the same milestones that the builder and the mentor get?
Once again, another great question. So they actually get that payout at the end of the job, once everything is fully completed. And this, believe it or not, is avenue for you to possibly use this as leverage to that affiliate to possibly upgrade them. Right. So if someone just wants to be an affiliate, don't necessarily want to make a commitment. Once again, that's absolutely fine. Not only do they get paid less, but then they also get paid after the deal, all the way at the end. Right. Now, if you've had a solar deal, you know some can be relatively quick, let's say 3 weeks to a month, and then some can take much longer, right? 4, 5, 6 months, right? And once again, this is not an issue with freedom per se. This is not an issue with the consultant per se, the mentor, whatever. it just takes different time frames in different areas, right? And this is probably something that most people don't know. I live on the East Coast. I live in New York specifically. Jobs in New York recently have been taking place within about a month, maybe a month and a half. In New Jersey, we're looking at 6 to 8 months easily, right? Now it's close in location, but once again, the process of processing a deal all the way through just takes different time frames, right? So when these time frames take place, it's not, once again, freedom's fault. It's not the mentor's fault. It's just things, it's just the way the process is, right? So I know I went over and above on that question, but hopefully I answered it for sure for you. So yes, they definitely get paid all the way at the end. Does leasing put a lien on the home? No, leasing doesn't put a lien on the home. Just like financing doesn't put a lien on a home either, right? So a homeowner can go solar without having any type of lien on their house at all, right? When someone decides to sell their house and or uh, well, yeah, when someone decides to sell their house, it can either do two things. It can transfer into the new homeowner's name, right? So it can transfer. That would make sense. Or that homeowner could decide to buy the system out, right? Either way, buying the system out may not be the smartest thing to do. So transferring it over would obviously make the most sense. So thank you. Hopefully answered those questions. Appreciate your questions, Carla. And Leslie, let's see. When a customer lease their system, how long does the lease last? What are the leasing terms? So yes, the lease term is 25 years in most cases. And the leasing terms are when you Leslie, when you say the leasing terms, what are you referring to specifically? Just to make sure I answer that specific question.
Oh, yes, I guess. Thank you. You just answered my
Hmm.
question. Um, well, here, leasing, there's a term period, but I think you answered that when you said the lease is up for, it's for 25 years.
Yep.
Um, so,
Yes.
yes, I was thinking in that, um, area. Um, when
Hmm.
it came to finance, I know it was 25 years. So I didn't know what it was for leasing.
So,
So,
but good point, right? So for financing, there's multiple options. It can be a 5-year finance, it could be a 10-year finance, it could be 15, 20, 25, 30-year finance. So there's multiple options that you can choose from. The longest time frame, let's say 30 years, 25 years, right? Basically just makes the monthly price better for the homeowner, right? And so it's a 25-year term. I always tell my clients it's a 25-year term, but you don't have to pay it off in 25 years, right? You're now in control over how soon you pay that off, just like a house, just like a car, right? There's a term, but you decide how fast you pay it off based on what payments you make, right? So that puts the control in your hands. But for lease, it's 25 years, right? There's no negotiation with that. Um, Now, some people may say 25 because I hear this all the time. 25 years, oh my God, that's a long time. Once again, with the lease, you're locking yourself into a lower rate over the next 25 years. So the question really is, if you were looking to save, would you rather save for 1 year or for the next 25? Which one sounds better? Right? And if you don't have solar, you would have your utility company, right? We all know the utility company is going to continue going up, but with the lease, it doesn't have to. Once again, which one makes more sense, right? It's literally that simple. So thank you, Ms. Johnson, for that question as well. And so just a few other thoughts on why jobs can take a little longer. And these are things that I've experienced specifically with mentees going through the process. So I'm just looking at some of my notes here, but okay, so why a job may take longer. If you change your system multiple times, right? So I just had a client who from Massachusetts who got started. and they wanted a very specific system. These are one of the clients who did more research and knew more about solar than I did, so he says. But he kept changing what he wanted, right? And every time you change, once again, you have to go back and you have to change, let's say, the design, right? You have to add a battery in, you have to add a battery out. Every change takes about, and just in processing time, about a week, maybe a week and a half, right? So these are other things that can kind of hold your job off or make it extend longer. If you're adding a roof, right? So if there's a homeowner who needs a new roof, this is another process that can add more time to your overall solar job. Freedom does do roofs. They also have contractors who do roofs with them all over the country, right? So sometimes they need to partner up with other local contractors to help benefit that homeowner even faster. So sometimes they need to onboard roofing companies, right? That takes time, right? So this is something that can kind of slow the process down. Once again, it's a construction job, right? So that's something else. And once again, adding specific batteries, right? So adding certain batteries to a job just adding well, yeah, specifically batteries to a job can slow a job down. Why? Batteries are very hot, right? It's a very hot market for batteries now. Panels are definitely in abundance in certain situations. But batteries, because they're so hot, because they're so useful, if you order a certain battery, that battery may be on a backlog, right? So it may take some time to actually have that new battery come in for that install. Have a situation like this in Texas, right? They were looking to go solar, everything was good. They needed to install the system. They had a battery as well. They offered to install the system, I'm sorry, the solar system without the battery. And the client said no. And I agreed with them, right? They said, if you're going to install everything at once. So for that reason, it's extended the installation time just a little bit, right? However, I want everyone to think about this because people usually think about this in the wrong way. We're talking about months to have savings for the next 20, 30, 40 years, right? Does it make sense to, I don't want to say be at a disconvenience, but does it make sense to be patient up front so you can have savings for basically the rest of your life? Of course, right? So when and if you ever experience this type of situation, once again, have that perspective of you're helping a homeowner and you're helping them out long term. This is not quick, 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 right? Like I said, in certain areas, installs take place relatively quickly. In other areas, sometimes it can take some time, right? So here's how specifically I get around these time issues, right? As far as like time frame, because someone may ask, well, how does someone even become profitable in the solar industry if you have to wait, so long for a deal to go through? Well, from my perspective, it's about numbers, right? The more solar, I've realized is more of is a very much offensive game, right? How many people know that just because a homeowner says yes today doesn't mean that they're gonna get installed at all? How many people know that, right? It happens, right? People say yes, things take place. People get cold feet. The deal changes and it may not make any sense anymore. So this affects you very much when there's only one deal in the system, right? But if there's 10, 15 deals in the system, now when one person drops off, right, for whatever reason, it may not affect you so much, right? So I like to say solar from that perspective is an offensive game, right? You play offense, you put a lot on the books, and obviously you work with those who continue to move forward. Every deal's not going to go through for different reasons, and it may not be anyone's fault that they don't. But once again, if you think about it from that perspective and you continue to play offense, once again, you'll be able to manage a little bit better and easier overall. So that's more of a mindset that I would recommend, just overall from that perspective. Okay. So yes, Carlos, you mentioned tree removal as well. So this is something else that can definitely add to the timeline, because once again, just like roofing, Freedom can do this work, but sometimes in specific areas and specific locations, they may need to add a contractor on, right? And that work, Freedom is a solar installing company. So a lot of stuff outside of that, like roofs and trees and, just other things that may take place, um, you know, they may need to contract that work out. So anything where that happens, it may add some more time to the overall solar job, right? We would think, we may think, I should say, all of these things are just easy, quick, and simple. Once again, it's a construction job. It's not always that simple, right? You're dealing with people's most, biggest asset, or liability, depending on how you look at it, when it comes to their homes, right? So people are very particular. People are very, specific. And once again, certain small adjustments sometimes make a big deal overall. So hopefully that answered that question as well. And now I just want to open it up. To any other questions that anyone may have just generally, about the solar industry, kind of like where we stand, overall, in the solar industry, or just any questions generally at all.
So earlier today, when Mr. Sadler was presenting during my lunch break, he was,
Yes.
someone had mentioned, about what's happening, what had happened with one company and attempted to compare it with what potentially what they heard on the street about what's going on with Freedom. Can you
Mm,
clarify what you know about, Freedom, for example?
yeah. So I was on a call, but I didn't necessarily hear that part. But what exactly was the conversation, just to make sure I have full context?
I think what the person was saying is that someone was with a different company and they had to go
Mhm.
under, because Mr. Sadler had mentioned that Freedom is privately owned and operated. And they said, well, this other company was privately owned and operated too, and they went under, basically the doom and gloom situation. So, I know that we work primarily with Freedom and they're in 38 states. So, um, um, just wanted to know if you've heard anything recently. I know that they send videos out every week, or several
Mhm.
times a week, but have you heard anything new since the last time Freedom had addressed us as Build with regard to all of the legislative changes that are affecting the solar industry?
Yeah. Great question. Here's what I'll say. So to answer your question directly, have I heard of any other stuff going on with Freedom? No, I haven't heard. I'm keeping my ear to the ground just like everybody else. Is Freedom Forever still the installer? Absolutely. Zoom user. Yes, Freedom is still the installer. Um, what I will say is, once again, like you said, caller, a lot of doom and gloom, right? Yes, the big beautiful bill has shooken up the industry, and you guys see it, right? Okay, Marva, thank you. Sorry about that. You guys see it, right? It's shaking up the industry, and and I kind of mentioned this on the training before, but a lot of people who are just here for today, going tomorrow. A lot of those people, move around, right? You may not see some of those people as much, or people who possibly are here, not here, but, are in the industry to take advantage, right? And when I say take advantage, not necessarily take advantage of homeowners, but just take advantage of the immediate moment, right? Like trendy type things. So yeah, people move around and things of that nature. But if you have a long-term view, and a long-term vision of the solar industry, you'll know and understand that it's not going anywhere, right? So Now that's the solar industry. I want to be very clear. That's the solar industry. As far as specific companies and things of that nature, once again, I'm not a genie. When the Mosaic situation took place, it happened out of the blue, right? I wasn't aware of that. I don't know the financial records of a lot of these companies, but what I will say with Freedom is they have a huge footprint all over the country, right? Freedom is one of the few installers that operate in as many states as they do, which is a big deal to say, just nationally, right? So a lot of people from a lot of solar companies come from where they're at to work with Freedom because of that national reach. I also want to give you guys some perspective, right? For some of you, you may know, obviously, I've been in the solar industry for a while, and I work with specific installers in New York, right? So as I mentioned earlier, if I'm dealing with a specific installer in New York and they install all of my deals in a month, but then I work with a national installer and now nationally they install deals in 4 months, my perspective is there's something wrong with Freedom instead of me realizing that once again, I'm now operating in a much bigger situation, right? Where things are different in different states. Right now, as a mature person, I can have that perspective. Or as a mature consultant, I should say, I can have that perspective. Everyone doesn't necessarily have that perspective, right? So this is why you may hear different things from different people. And I would be mindful of some of the doom and gloom stuff that you hear, right? I would be mindful. I've been in the solar industry long enough to see some of these ups and downs. If you ever heard of the solar roller coaster, well, we're experiencing it right now, right? This is what it looks like. But I want you to also understand that when we say solar roller coaster, life is a roller coaster, right? Sometimes there's ups, sometimes there's downs. When you invest, that's a roller coaster, right? Sometimes there's ups, sometimes there's downs, right? In school, at work, there's always ups and downs in any and everything that you do. The real question is, are you going to be around after the down when things go back up, right? Because unfortunately, when's the best time to invest in a company? When it's all the way at the top or when it's at the bottom?
At the bottom,
Okay.
based on
So
what
if
we're,
you
yeah,
have
based on, there's a buy, your buys at the bottom, sells at the top.
exactly. So if you have that perspective, then you already know what's going to come, right? But once again, the question is, are certain people going to be around when that time comes, right? So once again, hopefully that answered that question. Um, yeah. But great question. Thank you. Any other specific questions that anyone else has? Yes, Freedom is always they're going to be the installer. I have had word that we may be adding on potentially some other installers as well for specific regions or states that maybe Freedom may not be in and things of that nature. That's a possibility. So once again, possibility. Don't quote me on that. But that may be what's coming in the near future. But yes, any other questions or thoughts at all? Anybody? Anybody?
Yes, Idris, I have a question.
Yes.
Excuse me. When it
Hmm.
comes to the commercial solar,
Hmm.
um, they qualify also for that tax credit, the previous tax credit. That were they able to partake of that as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So for residential solar, the deadline to take advantage of the tax credit is this year, at the end of this year. For commercial, it's over the next, I believe, uh, 2 to 3 years, right? That commercial company or building can take advantage of the tax credit. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
there's a little bit of extended time for commercial jobs. But so yes.
Thank you.
And once again, what I would highly recommend, specifically for right now, right, as we're in the midst of closing out the year, trust me when I say it's not too late to still take advantage of the timing to still help homeowners out, right? I know there's been a lot of different word of, well, after this time, things are going to get cut off, things are going to get shut down, and we're not going to be able to help homeowners anymore. I want you to understand that there's homeowners who are struggling with their bills, electric bills specifically, right? As bills continue to go up. Once again, we are all witnessing the AI revolution. We're all witnessing the data centers popping up all over the place. Those two things alone are going to increase the usage, electric usage all over the country. Those two things are going to raise electric rates significantly. When they do, as they already have, once again, are you going to be available? Or are you still going to be here, I should say, or have an option to help that homeowner with solar, right? Very important thing. Also, right, just to add more input, if anyone on this line is not focused, but if you can see a way of benefiting from all of the home essentials that we have, solar is a good leeway to now offer this person water filtration, now offer this person home security, now offer this person internet. And now you can have different discussions about some of the other services that we offer, right? So don't sleep on that, that portion of the other things that we do. Over the past, I would say month now, I've had maybe about 4 or 5 clients who not only got solar, but they also got home security or internet, right? Internet, back in the day, I used to sell internet myself. So I didn't think, so many people were going to be open to it now because your thought is every household has internet. You'd be surprised how many people are looking for a different option, right? As long as you mention it, right? If you don't mention it, obviously, they won't know. So we have some amazing flyers in the back office where you can use to kind of like help explain that process of what we do, what we have, and what we offer for the home essential side of everything that we do as well. Obviously, we have the trading that's more, personally and so many more things that builders are going to be coming out with as well. But for homeowners, that's definitely a good resource. Any other thoughts or questions before we close out for the night? Going once, going twice. All right, awesome. Appreciate all you guys for jumping on and rocking with me tonight for this training. Once again, don't remember, or I should say remember, right? Solar is still live, it's still thriving. You can still help homeowners, and there's a huge benefit, not just to the homeowner, but also to yourself, right? So we want to keep that also in the forefront with everything that we have going on as well. And I can't wait to see how the industry evolves next year. Once again, there may be a slow moment, a moment in time. But the good thing about where we're at right now is that slow moment usually always takes place in the fourth and first quarter anyway, right? There's usually a bit of a dip, right? Things slow down. Once again, people are on vacation, they're traveling, it's cold outside. People aren't really usually thinking about solar. But come spring and summertime, once again, there'll be a lot more options for all of us to take advantage of. So, but just remember, we can take advantage of them now as well. So with that, I appreciate everyone jumping on. Thank you guys all so much as well. If any other questions, if not any other questions, we'll jump off now. All right. Obviously, we all know we have the Millionaire Mentorship Call taking place with Mr. Samuel Bean himself. So I know he has some great information to share with us, a lot of updates. And this is Monday, so there's a laundry list of trainings and people to plug into and a lot of information to get. So with that, once again, appreciate everyone and look forward to seeing you guys on the Millionaire Mentorship Call. Take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.